welcome to Illustrated Beard, Episode 6. Brought to you by the Fantasy Shop, best in comics and games since 1981. I am Jason.
I'm Nate.
And tonight we are going to do some reviews for you. My reviews will be Green Lantern number 20, which is awesome. Jeff Johns' last issue on the book, really cool. And the Star Wars Darth Maul Death Sentence trade. Darth Maul is amazing.
I have things to say about that too, to be honest.
We'll
I didn't read the whole thing, which is why I'm not reading. Had I read that whole series, which I will, now that it's in trade, I would have reviewed it. But I'm reviewing Half Past Danger, number 1. Ooh. Yeah, I think this is probably the first IDW book I have cared enough about to review, and that's not because IDW has things I don't care about. It's just that I guess it would be because IDW has some things I don't care about. There's
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I care about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I'm reading that very slowly in trade format. And I mean, like Doctor Who, I care about Doctor Who, but I'm so behind in the show. Like I just started watching the show. It is what it is. But it's just IDW has never really put out a bunch of stuff that I was like, ooh, I gotta pick that up. I'll have things to say about that. And then I'm reviewing Star Wars Dark Times Volume 1, which is not new, but it's awesome. And Star Wars is always relevant.
For sure.
So, yeah, that's what I got.
Alright, I will start here with the Green Lantern number 20. This is... Landmark is right, it is correct. This is the final part of the Wrath of the First Lantern story, which kind of was hit and miss. There were some issues that were good, there were some issues that weren't. But overall, it was a really cool story, and the big thing, the reason I'm reviewing this is because it's Jeff Johns' last issue, and I have been in love with Jeff Johns' writing on Green Lantern since he first started in Rebirth. He pretty much single-handedly made Green Lantern relevant again. I mean, he is the one responsible for making Hal Jordan a viable, relevant character in the world again. And this is, like I said, this is the finale. It's really thick. It's almost like... at least I'd say 2 or 3 comics all in one comic here. And he really does not pull out, or he pulls out all the stops for this one. He really just kind of has everything come full circle of every story he's written. And some really cool stuff happens that I won't talk about because you really need to see it in context.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Okay, so it's Spider-Man 700 sized.
It is quite Spider-Man 700 sized.
Is it mostly story?
It is all story.
Okay, so it's actually Spider-Man 700 sized.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to talk bad about Spider-Man 700.
It is all story up until, let's see, this right here.
Okay, that's awesome.
Like, yeah,
so
the
you're
last 3 pages are not story.
So you're actually paying for $8 worth of comic.
Yes, instead of $5 worth of comic and $2 worth of reprints.
Yeah, which I mean, Spider-Man 700 was awesome. Like that
issue.
It was a great issue,
Yeah.
and like even the extra stuff in there was cool. But like when that came out, we looked at it and we were like, wow, that's going to be a lot of story, and it was like some story, and then
some reprinted stuff and some little backup stories, pretty much. But no, this goes all from beginning to end. The finale
That's
to
awesome.
the Wrath of the First Lantern, and
Jeff Johns, you're doing cool stuff.
nothing to do with the story, but there was some really cool stuff in here. Let me find one of them really quick. I don't know why I'm having such trouble, because they're all over the book. These little congratulations Jeff Johns pages, which are really cool. There's some creators, even some like movie stars and other people that kind of come on here and just put some little comments in here. Congratulations on a historic run. But the Wrath of the First Lantern story, the basic premise is there was a man that the Guardians of the Universe had locked up in a vault on Maltus, and they were, basically he was feeding power to their core through him being locked up. They were siphoning off his emotional energy. Now, what we find out in this is that his emotional energy actually comes from the moment when the Guardians of the Universe first purged themselves of all emotion. Now, ever since we've known them, throughout all of Green Lantern's history, the only ones who have ever shown any emotion were Ganthet and Sade. Ganthet and Sade chose to not purge themselves of emotion. But the rest of the Guardians are cold, calculating, almost robotic in the way that they deal with problems. And we go back to a time when that first happens, and they decide to purge them all of them decide to purge themselves of their emotion. and it's all kind of coalesced in this first lantern. When I say first lantern in that respect, I literally mean a lantern. And then this guy happened to be there with them. He was a part of their planet. He was a part of their group at the time, and he, upon touching the lantern, ended up with all of the emotion that the Guardians have purged from themselves within him. So that's why when you see him, he's kind of got these veins with these different colors, because everybody knows all the different color spectrums represent different emotions. So he's essentially been imprisoned for eons, and finally has been released and is taking his revenge on the Guardians, the Corps, and the universe at large.
Death isn't an emotion. Neither is life.
Death and life were something that were added during Blackest Night.
Not an emotion.
Right. They're not emotions. Everything else was an emotion. There is one thing in here that I'm going to spoil, so if you don't want to know, or if you haven't read it yet, turn your volume down, and I'll give you a little thumbs up when it's good to turn it back up. But one of the things that Jeff Johns has introduced into the story is the element of the entities. These versions of the emotion coalesced into this beast thing. And they themselves are not powerful on their own without taking a host. And so we've seen Parallax in Hal Jordan. That was what first caused him to turn against the Corps and eventually die. We've seen other people with some of the entities in them. Each emotional spectrum has an entity that is the coalescence of that energy. And one of the things that's always, for any Green Lantern fan, been something that we've all been wanting to see, and we just never have, Jeff Johns finally gives to us in this monumental, oversized issue, and it is Sinestro being possessed by Parallax, which is amazing. That's something that, like I said, everybody's been clamoring for since we understood that there was a fear entity and that Sinestro was the master of fear. So it does happen, and the interesting thing, I know that other people have been possessed by it, so you say, oh well, that's cool, but it's not really that interesting. Well, actually, what the whole thing about it is when Parallax would possess Hal Jordan, he possessed Kyle Rayner, he's possessed Ganthet. The fear entity always takes over, but because Sinestro is the master of fear, he actually controls the entity as opposed to the entity controlling him, which was really, really cool. And he looks really awesome as Parallax. I mean, it just works. So that was really cool. That's just a small part of what is such an interesting story from beginning to end. And like I said, he pulls out all the stops, man. He does things that, if you've been reading Green Lantern since Rebirth, are going to make you smile and are going to make you understand that why this is such a good issue for him to go out on. But of course, bad guys lose, good guys win. And it all comes down to a cool little moment in the future, far, far future for the Corps, where there is a mysterious kind of hooded guy. They call him the Lore Keeper, I think. I don't really remember. Let's see. The Bookkeeper. That's what it is. The Bookkeeper. He's the keeper of the Green Lantern's history in this giant book.
He keeps the books.
Yeah. And so we get a cool little thing where they tell you of the future of some of these characters. They can tell you what happened to Guy Gardner far into the future, what happened to Hal and Kyle and Carol and Atrocitus and Larfleeze and all these people that we've come to know throughout the years reading Green Lantern. So it was a really interesting kind of way to go out, and it was really, really good for his last issue. Now,
like 90s style or 80s style freeze frame, like the Breakfast Club.
Kind of, yeah, kind of, where they kind of catch you up on everything that's been happening with these characters since the last time we saw them. Now, I'm going to show this just because it's not anything that's going to spoil anything about the story. It's just a cool splash page. Help me hold this up here, buddy. It's just a cool splash page that Ethan Van Sciver did, and it's literally every core and every emotional entity behind them there, which was amazing, really, really awesome to see. Ethan Van Sciver, if everybody out there remembers, if you don't, he was the guy who first he did the art for Green Lantern Rebirth, which was Jeff Johns' first foray into the Green Lantern world. And so it's kind of cool to see him come back and do some things. There's a smattering of artists that he got. Everybody that's ever drawn Green Lantern while Jeff Johns has been writing it does some of the art in this book.
That's awesome.
I mean, literally on the back here, Ethan Van Sciver, Ivan Rice, Patrick Gleason, Coley Hammer, Aaron Cooter, Jerry Ordway, Christian Alame, Mark Irwin, Mark Deering, and more. I mean, this book splits it among everybody who's ever done art for him, which is great. It's really, really amazing.
That's awesome.
If you haven't been reading Wrath of the First Lantern, I would not recommend reading this book because it really is the conclusion to what has been a really rocky up and down story running through every Green Lantern title. So check it out, though. Number 20, sitting on my shelf right now. Amazing.
I don't suppose... excuse me. I don't suppose they've solicited a hardcover for this whole crossover.
Not yet, but they probably will. What the New
Something
52
like
has been doing...
Vowel style.
Yeah, what the New 52 has been doing is putting all tie-in stuff into one hardcover book, which has been really
convenient.
Cool. Yeah,
it's very convenient.
If you want to read the whole crossover, awesome. They'll probably also release just the Green Lantern parts, just the core parts.
Yeah, like with Night of Owls, like the only DC title I read is Batman, but I wanted to read the Night of Owls crossover, so I've got the Night of Owls hardcover. So
absolutely.
It's awesome. So
yeah.
I hope they do that, because I don't know. You're making me want to read Green Lantern, and I don't want to read Green Lantern. I don't want to read any new titles.
It's really, I mean, Green Lantern in and of himself is kind of a secondary character in the DC universe to guys like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and some of these characters that are always in the forefront. But Jeff Johns has really made it amazing. He's up and down. I mean, there's not been a story that at least hasn't been good on some level.
He's a good writer. I can't stop yawning. This is terrible. This is very unprofessional.
It's cool, brother.
It's not good for video.
We film these videos late at night after the store closes, so yeah, tired.
Yeah, it was New Comic Book Day. I opened.
It was a long day.
But I probably won't have nearly as much to say about this book as you had to say about yours. But I do have good things to say. And
it was a long book.
It was a long book. And it was a monumental book. Yeah. But I am reviewing Half Past Danger #1. It's on IDW. And note, it says, created, written, and drawn by Stephen Mooney. Which is unusual. That doesn't happen a lot. In fact, I was under the understanding that the only book currently doing that was Matt Kint's Mind Management. He's a local. He's from St. Louis.
Nice guy.
He is a nice guy. Anyway, so honestly, this book had not hit my radar. I didn't really notice it when we were putting the books out last night. But I came in this morning, and John, my boss, mentioned Half Past Danger was awesome. Dinosaurs and Nazis and soldiers, oh my.
Oh my.
Yeah. And my response was, man, I've heard of that before. I've heard that concept before, and I didn't care when I heard it then, because I'm a jerk. But I picked it up and opened it, and immediately noticed that the art is awesome. Like, the color palette on this book is striking, and it just fits really well with where the book is taking place and the subject of the book. So yeah, it's some U.S. soldiers in the Pacific Islands, and they find Nazis in the Pacific Islands, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. There's not Nazis in the Pacific Islands. This is World War II. That's impossible. But then there are Nazis in the Pacific Islands. And they don't fight them. They're like, well, we better get away from here because we don't have enough ammo to fight these Nazis, and surprise, dinosaurs in the jungle. And it's pretty awesome, to be honest. Like, I'm probably not doing it justice, because like I said, like, if you're somebody like me who thought that Nazis, dinosaurs, and American soldiers in World War II sounds like a garbage concept.
Is there a ninja on the front cover?
That is, in fact, yeah, wow, apparently there's a ninja. There's a ninja.
That's amazing.
There's a ninja in what looks a lot like World War II era German camo.
Army fatigues.
Because I know what German camo looks like. But the cover's pretty awesome, and the fact that I didn't notice this is lame, because it's a cool dude with a Tommy gun, a hot chick with a cigarette, airplanes, tanks, a ninja, and a burning Nazi flag.
He looks like Han Solo or Indiana Jones.
He's Irish, too.
Nice.
So literally everything about this cover is things I like. There's a Nazi flag that's burning. I like that. There's a guy with a Tommy gun. I like that.
Everybody can get behind hating Nazis.
Yeah, I hate Nazis. Yeah. There's a chick. She's pretty. I like that. Dinosaur skull. I really, I don't need to list everything, because this is all things that are awesome. Yeah, and the book, this issue ends with a bar fight with a dude in a zoot suit doing kung fu. Like, I gotta be honest, this is seriously...
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah.
I have to read this now.
Maybe that might not be a zoot suit, to be honest. Okay, it's not a zoot suit, but it is a cool suit, and he is doing kung fu. I don't know. Like, I wanted to not like this book, because dinosaurs in World War II is just something that I thought was kind of dumb.
Silly.
And it is silly, but this really is pretty awesome. This is like Jurassic Park meets, like Guns of Navarone. This is pretty much what this is. That's
Jurassic
pretty much
Park
what this
meets
is.
Guns of Navarone. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Seriously, pick this up because this is now on my pull and hold. Yeah, Stephen Mooney, good job. I don't know who you are. I hope that you're related to Paul Mooney. He's a good comedian. Half Past Danger, issue 1. Read it.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it now, just based on what
Yeah,
you've
it was
been
really
saying about
for
it.
real. No, it was really good.
All right, right on. Moving along, my trade review, as I said earlier, is Star Wars Darth Maul Death Sentence, which was really cool. Darth Maul is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been following the Clone Wars cartoon at all, you'll recognize Darth Maul's brother, Savage Opress.
That's a really, like,
It's a silly name, but...
General Grievous, Savage Opress, Darth Tyranus.
Yeah, George Lucas.
I'm gonna go back to the Red Letter Media reviews and ask why there was never a character named Admiral Bone to Pick.
Admiral Bone to Pick?
Yeah.
Nice.
There should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it would have fit with the theme very well. I love Star Wars, but come on, dude.
Yeah, agreed. And this story is basically about the revival of Darth Maul and him going out into the galaxy to get his revenge on the Jedi.
I had beef with that too, but I liked this book.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking trash. I'm saying that despite all the things I had beef with about this, I picked it up.
Still
and
a
read
pretty awesome miniseries, yeah.
it. Pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And if you haven't watched the cartoon, many of you may be saying to yourself, I thought he got cut in half. And he did.
He did.
And now he has robot legs.
Yep.
Which,
Robo-legs,
yeah.
as I like to call them.
In the Star Wars universe, it's not unheard of for someone to have robot parts and beat death. It happens. It's happened in the expanded universe. I don't think it ever happened in the movies. I think they ever gave
Robot
anybody
legs?
I mean, they gave robot limbs to like Luke
Yeah,
and
just
Vader
about
and
everybody
stuff.
has a robot hand, though, in the movies.
Not everybody.
Just about.
Han Solo doesn't have a robot
Every
hand.
Skywalker I can think of, with maybe the
The
exception...
Skywalkers do have robot hands.
Does Cade? Did Cade ever get a robot hand?
I don't remember. That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't know, but just about all the Skywalkers have robot hands.
If anybody out there knows if Cade had a robot hand, leave it in a comment.
Yeah. If anybody, yeah, if you know if Cade Skywalker got a robot hand,
question.
email me.
Okay, leave it in the comments. It'll be good. But no, Darth Maul Death Sentence, really, really cool story, like I said, about the revival of him and him wanting to get his revenge on the Jedi. And his brother Savage really kind of helping him to cope with the idea that he's now half robot. I'm not...
As many Sith come to be.
Right, many Sith do end up being half robot. I'm not going to comment too much on some of the plot details because there really is some cool stuff in here, and you're going to want to experience it for yourself.
It's brutal, too.
Yeah, it really is.
Which surprised me. It had been a while since I'd seen, like, brutality in Star Wars. And it's nice to be reminded that, like, Star Wars is gritty.
Yeah,
Like, that's
absolutely.
that's the whole thing about the expanded universe, is it allows... The expanded universe is essentially fan fiction that is, like, added to the official continuity. And while that sounds like garbage...
It's actually not. I mean,
it's actually not. Like, the quality of writing, it's more like the reverse. It's more like the stuff that George Lucas has written is, like, bad fan fiction. And the stuff that fans have written, or writers who, like, yeah, it's fans have written, that became part of the expanded universe, is kind of like the backbone of Star Wars for
It
me.
really is, yeah.
With the exception of the original trilogy, obviously. But even then, there's a lot of garbage dialogue.
There really is. George Lucas can't write dialogue. Apologies, George, but yeah.
I'm not sorry, George.
Dialogue was bad.
I'm not sorry. You were bad at writing.
But so, this story kind of, it tells of a planet that sun is burning out, and they can't go out during the day. Like they literally will burn alive, and they have a prophecy that a savior will come, and they believe this savior is Darth Maul. Now, while he does save them in a way, he's still a very bad guy in the story. Like, he really, really is. And I will talk about this one moment because I really thought it was just very indicative of what this story represents, is Darth Maul wanting to get revenge on the Jedi. Some Jedi are sent out to the planet as well, and Savage Opress and Darth Maul end up there first. And they're questioning this, I think he's like a smuggler or an arms dealer or something. In any case, bad dude. And Darth Maul uses his force push to push him off of this big cliff, and then he literally stops in midair. And Savage and Darth Maul are there, and there are Jedi down below that had just caught him.
Ooh.
And Savage has the reaction of fear. He says, Jedi, you know, like he is scared. Darth Maul sees the Jedi, and he is excited, and he looks very evil, and he has this wicked grin on his face, and he says, Jedi. And so that's really kind of the theme of this story, is Savage is not ready for the kind of attention that comes from Jedi. He doesn't want the Jedi to know that he exists or to know about his dealings. Darth Maul, on the other hand, is not that guy at all. He is wanting them to come. He wants to kill them all. But it winds to a very, very cool conclusion with Darth Maul taking on some Jedi. We get to see him use his robot legs, which he's brutally efficient with. The first issue, he uses them to literally crush a Wookiee's head,
which is pretty.
Which is amazing because Wookiees are some of the strongest things in the universe.
They're literally made of diamonds. If
But
you read Star Wars books, you would know that.
And there's characters that you may not recognize and characters that you will. Obviously, Obi-Wan Kenobi pops in. Everybody knows Obi-Wan Kenobi. Very, very interesting. And the person that he wants revenge on the most is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, like that is the person that he is out to kill.
Seeing as Obi-Wan cut him in half.
Right.
Duh.
But there is definitely going to be more to this story. This was just the first 4-issue miniseries. It's
how they do a lot of Star Wars books now.
Yeah, it definitely winds down to a conclusion that it's solid. It's very self-contained as a story, but it also leaves you open for the opportunity to do more with Darth Maul and the Jedi Order. So, very fantastic story. Definitely recommend picking it up. Not only if you're a Star Wars fan, but if you're a Darth Maul fan, this is a good story to read. So Star Wars Darth Maul Death Sentence is on my shelf now from Dark Horse. Check it out.
My foot fell asleep.
Ow. It happens.
It hurts. All right, in my trade review, and the last review of this episode, episode 6.
We couldn't agree on a comic that we both thought should be read. So yeah, we're cutting that.
I mean,
part
of course we agree on these things, but
sure.
There wasn't one that we had both read that we were both excited enough about to say, hey, read this.
Right, review as a pair.
So yeah, I'm reviewing Star Wars Dark Times Volume 1. This was one of the 2 comics that got me into comics, along with Star Wars Legacy. I've told this story my brother gave me.
Right, devotees will remember that
Yes.
Star Wars Legacy got this guy into comics.
True. Star Wars Legacy and Dark Times. I think it was Dark Times first. I had a flight to Arizona, and my brother gave me a stack. He gave me essentially this in single issue form. Plus, I think the second volume too in single issue form. But yeah, this is a great book. It takes place in that point of time between episode 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. It is the Dark Times. It's the rise of the Empire. It is kind of post, but still during the end of the Jedi Purge. There are still like Jedi Knights and Masters who are out there who have survived, and it follows this crew. If I recall correctly, man, it's been too long since I've read this, but this book is so good. Oh man, it's just kind of a ragtag crew of refugees. And it really just kind of follows them as they try to get through the galaxy. It's aliens, there's a Jedi, but it's mostly just the underclass, the second-class citizens of the Empire trying to survive on the fringe of the Empire.
Sure.
And it's really good. Like, it's definitely, this book is about the underclass. It's, at least in the first couple volumes that I read, it is less a book about, like, the big galaxy-spanning, like, fate story and destiny story, as it is, like, these are people, and it sucks to be them.
Yeah, that's some of the best stories I've ever read in any form of media, whether it's superhero or science fiction, are stories that are told from perspectives that you wouldn't expect them to be told from.
Yeah. Granted, I mean, it does talk about Vader, and it does, like, Vader is a character in this book, so it does get kind of big at times. There's a character who may or may not be a Jedi. He's a Jedi. But I don't think you find that out immediately, but it's not really a spoiler.
Don't.
I think more important is that by the time you find out he's a Jedi, his fellow refugees don't know he's a Jedi.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the thing with that. They probably wouldn't hang out with him if they knew, because Jedis attract a lot of attention. But yeah, it's a really good book. There's really sad moments. I mean, there's no stormtroopers yet. It's all still clones. It's like right after episode 3. And I highly recommend it. I'm going to read the back description, because it's been like literally, like I was like 15 when I read this. So, on Coruscant, Darth Vader waits for his master to reveal his vision for the Empire. But is there a plan beyond obtaining power? On New Plimpto, Jedi Master Das Janir leads an Osarian army in a war they have already lost. Is this what it means to be a Jedi? In the wake of the Clone Wars and the destruction of the Jedi Order, the dark times have begun. The future is grim, evil is on the rise, and all paths seem to lead to nowhere. So that's kind of the awesome thing about this book. Like that
The
last
theme
sentence,
of Dark Times.
the
yeah.
future is grim, evil is on the rise, and all paths seem to lead to nowhere. Like that's the big theme with Star Wars is usually that there is like a very specific path for a character, even if it seems otherwise to them. Like destiny is always the thing with Star Wars, and this has a book of like aimlessness. It has a feel of aimlessness.
As do most books that take place in between. Most stories that take place in between 3 and 4. I mean, that was just a bad time for the universe.
Force Unleashed, not so much, but that's a whole other story that I have a lot of feelings about.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to know my feelings about Force Unleashed, and if you want to know my feelings about why Darth Maul Death Sentence was a bad idea to write, even though it was a good book and I liked it, and you should still buy it because really it is a good book, and everybody likes Darth Maul, and I will say that because it exists, it's awesome. But had somebody come to me and be like, man, we're going to write a book about Darth Maul coming back and he's going to have robot legs, I would have been like, that already happened, and it was not good.
Yeah, exactly.
Except this time it was good.
When you see, I mean, the story can sound bad on the surface, but when you actually see what they do with it, it actually turns out to be pretty.
Yeah, it is really good. Like, once...
It really comes down to who's writing it.
Exactly,
most of the
it
time,
does, and
yeah.
how they handle the subject matter. But, yeah, if you want to know why I feel that way about those things, you can email me. Or just come into the shop and ask me. I love talking about Star Wars, and I'll probably convince you to buy some Star Wars books.
So yeah, that's going to bring us to the end of the video. Shameless plug time. We are having a comic book club.
Comic book club.
Our first comic book club meeting on Monday, June 3rd.
It's going to be awesome.
The book we have selected is Kingdom Come. It is really, really an amazing story of a dark future for the Justice League and the world at large. And it's also one of those stories, like Dark Times, that's told from some perspectives that you wouldn't really expect it to be told from.
Yep. Also, if you need more convincing after hearing just that, all of the internal art, in fact, I think just all of the art is done by Alex Ross.
It is. Everything was done by Alex Ross. He
Yeah.
rarely does interior art, but when he does, it is
It's
phenomenal.
ridiculous. It's like the entire book is an oil. It's like oil painting comic. That's pretty much, I think that's probably what it is.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he actually uses oils, but
He definitely doesn't have an inker, so there's some kind of paint.
it's ridiculous.
It's some kind of painted
He's
style.
absurd.
I'm not really sure how
his
it's
art,
done.
his art is absurd, and I want to be that man.
I want to
I
be
don't,
that
I don't
man.
really want to be that man. No, for real though, it's awesome.
But yeah, so if you watch us out there and you've never been to the shop, the Comic Book Club is an awesome time to come in. We're going to have a conversation about it. If you've read it, you're good to go. If you haven't, we're selling the book here at 20% off to anybody who's going to participate. So
Absolutely.
come on in, pick it up. You have no excuse not to. And thank you for joining us here on Illustrated Beard, and we will see you next week.
Have a good one. And cut.